Okay. Gelsimium, that's a major medicine. Are you gonna start video? Come on, video. Live video starting. What's going on with you? Dang nabbit. Am I gonna have to run this again? It looks like it. Well, let's just see if it kicks in. Create live video. Dang nabbit. Alright, I need some more light here. Man, there ain't no sense to this. I should just do it again. Oh, there we go. You're live now. Oh, and I've got 31 seconds in. Sorry about that. I didn't think this was going to kick in. I was going to have to do it again. Gelsimium yellow jasmine is what it's called. Tincture of the bark of the root. So the bark of the root. Gelsimium, which belongs to the same order of plants as Nux vomica, which is a poison nut, and Nux vomica and curare. You know, you see them little them guys from Africa with them pipes, and they blow them little darts out with curare on it. So yeah, it's the same realm as those two poisons. It's not only one of the most important additions to the materia medica, for whose introduction we are mainly indebted to Hale. Hale's a great homeopath, and he, I guess, brought this to homeopathic attention. But it is also in the first rank of importance among the vegetable polycrest. What is a polycrest? That is a medicine that is, yeah, and I had to cut out some of the stuff that Gelsimium is good for. It's, man, there's a lot that it's good for. And a polycrest is good for a lot of different situations, whether it's a headache, a flu, this one like Gelsimium, meningitis, Parkinson's, you know, just it covers a wide range of illnesses. And that's what a polycrest is. So, like its botanical relatives, Gelsimium is a great paralyzer. So it'll paralyze the body and the mind, probably. It produces a general state of paresis, which is paralysis, mental and bodily. The mind is sluggish. The whole muscular system is relaxed. The limbs feel so heavy he can hardly move them. And this is like the keynote. That's what I went with. The lady couldn't make it to our class that we were having that day. She said, I can't make it today because my daughter has COVID, you know, so I guess she had her tested. And, you know, we're all like, everybody's like, oh, sorry to hear that. I hope she's better. We'll pray for her, all this stuff. And I said, what's going on with her? She said, she's just laying there. She's not moving. I said, you go down to the health food store and get Gelsimium. So that's what she did. She went down, she got it, came back, gave it to her, and, you know, gave me a testimony. I think it's in my community, saying that, you know, the fever broke, and then the next day she was fine. So that's how quickly it can work, and that was off of just one keynote, which is not moving. You know, that could be bryonia, that could be, you know, but Gelsimium, you know, when they're dopey and they're not moving, that you would definitely go for Gelsimium. Doesn't matter what the flu, cold, COVID, whatever it is. The mind is sluggish. The whole muscular system is relaxed. The limbs feel so heavy he can hardly move them. This condition exists in the case of typhoid. So anybody having typhoid fever, that call for it. Okay, the lassitude is expressed by the patient with muriatic acid. I wasn't sure about what that was about. There is a lassitude, so that's it. But the patient does not express it. The same paretic condition is shown in the eyelids. So that's when you see a Gelsimium. There's other ones that can be like opium, and that could be, you know, dopey and not moving. And but the eyelids are like half mast when they're walking around trying to do something. Causing ptosis in the eye muscles, the diplopia, which is double vision, in the esophagus, causing loss of swallowing power, and in the anus, which remains open, so they're having a hard time swallowing, and it's like a lump in the throat. There's a few medicines that have that. And the anus remains open, and diarrhea from depressing emotions or bad news. So this is a big bad news remedy, or, you know, just depression, you know, and depression after from the bad news. You could think of Ignatia with depression, a few other ones, but Gelsimium, when they get bad news, you know, they hear bad news, and it's like an energy goes in and just dings them, and they get sick. So you would consider Gelsimium for that. Functional paralysis of all descriptions. Erskine, a homeopath, I'd imagine. White, Erskine White, cured an infant born in convulsions. So this is the epileptic part of it. 3 weeks after its mother had been terribly frightened by seeing her little brother nearly burnt to death. So this woman's pregnant and she has this trauma happen, and now that trauma is passed on to the child comes out with convulsions, epileptic stuff, and he used gelsimium to get rid of that. And that's all bad news from bad news. The only guiding symptom was the child's chin quivered incessantly, so that's a keynote, I would imagine. The chin just going up and down like a typewriter. 30 seconds after the dose, the quivering ceased in the mouth. In 3 minutes, the convulsions were at an end. So that one dose. 30 seconds, the chin stops quivering, then the convulsions stop. White had to ride 12 miles over mountains to reach the patient and receiving the summons. So the convulsions must have lasted a considerable time. So the whole time he's traveling over the mountains and through the woods to grandmother's house, this poor child's convulsing. Post diphtheria paralysis, debility after seminal discharges, great prostration from irritability of seminal vesicles. This is all male, I would imagine. The mental prostration is typified in as funk. They're just in a funk. As before an examination, stage fright, so going to see a doctor, a dentist, getting a test, even taking tests, and stage fright. Effects of anger, grief, bad news, and is accompanied by trembling. All right, that's good enough for that. Let's get into it. This is a big medicine, buddy, and I didn't feel like doing it today. I got caught in that rain on Friday here. It was we were over planting plants, getting ready for the what the heck is that? The garden club to come around and look at everybody's garden in the area, and all of a sudden, the downpour. Boy, did it pour too. That was something. But anyways, Gelsimium. So I felt okay Saturday. I went and did some more planting, and then Sunday I woke up. I couldn't talk, and I felt funky, and I really didn't take a medicine. I just kind of rested. But anything. There's a lot of these medicines that say they get sick from their feet getting wet, or they get sick from being in a bad weather or change of weather or whatever. So that, yeah, I would look up basically change of weather or getting wet, either feet being wet or just getting wet and getting a cold. Muscles and motor nerves is big for Gelsimium. They all kind of relax. Aching, tiredness, weakness, that's a 3. This is all, and soreness. So that weakness is a big one with this, and tiredness. And there's an achy soreness about them, and that could be a few other remedies for flus and colds. Dizziness and drowsiness, that's a 3, almost like they're drunk. Dullness and trembling, so the trembling of the hands or whatever. Apathetic and dull, so they don't care. Who cares? I'm so tired, I can't move. Motor paralysis, that's a 3. These are all 3s. Influenza and malaise, so just somebody who has the flu or a COVID or whatever, and they're just like, blah, they just can't function because they're just so weak and tired. Gelsimium you'd consider. Muscle weakness, paralysis, never well since the flu. So there's a lot of never wells. Never well since a trauma, never well. This Gelsimium's never well since a flu. So they got a flu and they just can't get it back together. They're just so tired and they're just so worn out. And when did this start? It's once I had that flu. Afterwards, I just never could get better. Feel better. Tremors, so any kind of tremors. Worse bad news, that's a big one for Gelsimium. Worse humid weather, spring, Sunday, or the sun, sorry, Sunday, the sun, and 10 a.m. Spring, sun, they can't handle the sun, humid weather, and bad news. Ill effects of fright, fear, bad news, anger, all that stuff. If it causes some kind of symptoms, whatever it is, like getting sick, a cold, a flu, or just pain, you would consider Gelsimium. Okay, mine, apathy regarding illness. They're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? I'm all right. Yeah, it's fine. I just want to lay here. That's a 3. Falling, fear of falling, fright, fear, exciting news, dread of falling. There's that falling again. Bad effects from bad news, that exciting news or bad news, any kind of news, bad effects from it. That's a 3. Fear, doctors and dentists. So they fear having to go do that. And I would even say if they have to take tests and things, there's a fear. Stage fright. That's a 3. So anybody that's got to get up and give a talk and that, a lot of times you'll see they'll have diarrhea. So colic, diarrhea, yellow discharge, and Gelsimium is a yellow plant. So that's kind of the doctrine of signatures. Soreness, tenderness, and you'll see the tongue is even yellow. Rumbling and wind above and below, so they're farting and burping. Sorry. Chilliness up and down back, that's a big one. They get the chills up and down their back. Pain in neck and upper scapula. Deep pain in the back, the hips, the lower limbs. So there's just this deep pain, and there's a few. What is that? Trying to think. There's another medicine with that deep pain. Baptisia. That can be a flu one. Baptisia. Eupatorium purr is a bone pain type of thing. Anyways, as if a lump in the chest. Dry cough with a sore chest. Burning in the chest with that cough, and it's sore. From all the coughing. Larynx is sore on coughing, and fluent coryza, so lots of mucus with this medicine. And I wouldn't doubt it's a yellow mucus, being it's a yellow plant, yellow mucus, yellow tongue, yellow diarrhea. So let's see, pain on swallowing. So any of them people that, anybody, and I've had this before, where your throat is sore and it's up into the ears. Catarrhal deafness with pain in throat on swallowing. Heavy droopy eyelids. That's a big one. You see someone just with their eyelids are half masked, you're like, okay, this guy looks like they need Gelsimium. That's a 3. Dim-sighted, so they can't see very well. Neuralgia and contractions, and they twitch. Nerve pains, contraction, and twitching. What is that medicine? Phosphorus and cycla something. I can't remember what that one is offhand. But phosphorus and that with that twitching and that neuralgia. Serous inflammation of the eyes. So there's an inflammation there. That's a 3. And hysterical amblyopia. Amblyopia, I think, is that, no, diplopia is double vision. Amblyopia is, I don't know, nearsighted, farsighted, something or other. There's so much, I'm not going to stop to look. Hey, hot, heavy, flushed, besotted look. So besotted meaning they just look like they're just worn out and they had enough. Here we go. Baptisia and opium would be considered in that hot, heavy face, flushed, and with besotted look. Neuralgia in the face, lower jaw drops, so the jaw basically hangs down. Rigid OS with the female, that's a 3. False labor pains, dysmenorrhea, painful menses. Yellow leukorrhea, there's more yellow stuff. Feels like uterus is squeezed. Chamomile, nux vomica, and ustalaga all have that. Ustalaga is corn smut. It's a fungus that grows on corn. We made a medicine out of. Epilepsy at menses. So when they have their menses, they get this epileptic attacks. Usually thirstless, but thirst when they're sweating. No thirst with fever. So they have a fever, they don't have a thirst. Little appetite, but they can't eat. They want to eat, but they don't have much of an appetite. Band feeling around the occiput, the back of the head. Dull, heavy ache with heavy eyelids. This is the big one. Heavy eyelids is always Gelsimium. When you see someone coming at you like that. Pain in tempo extends the ears. Meningitis. Anybody having meningitis with the brain there? This may be one of the medicines. Pain in occiput with dilated pupils. The dilated pupils is always leads you to certain medicines like belladonna, and with the belladonna also has that flesh face and that. So muscle soreness in the neck and shoulders. And I always say, if you got your neck is stiff or painful or whatever, and you're like, I slept wrong, no, you got something else going on. Headache, before blindness. So they get this headache and then they can't see. That's interesting. Feeling like it is necessary to keep in motion or heart will stop. That's a very odd symptom. 3, someone says, oh, I can't sit here. I got to keep moving when you're talking to them because I feel like my heart will stop if I do. Gelsimium, I don't know of any other one, I don't think, that has that. Weak pulse in weak slow pulse in old age. Digitalis, which, that's a medicine that the allopaths are using. Calmia, apocyinum, caninum, but apocyinum, apple cider vinegar, calmia, and digitalis, all for the heart stuff. Flow is intermittent in the kidneys. Clematis would be a good one for that. Retention, that's 3, so they can't pee. Dysuria, they're peeing too much. Profuse, clear, and watery, that's a 3, with chilliness and tremors. So when they go to pee, they're having these chills in that and these tremors going on. Trembling and weakness, that's a 3, of all limbs. Loss of power and muscle control. Cramps in forearm, tottering gait. So any older folks that aren't quite, they're having a hard time getting around because their gait's off. Fatigue on slightest bit of exercise. So this person just is not into getting anything done. Passive congestion in the liver. Okay. So the liver's congested, it's not putting out the bile, I would imagine. And they got a gripping pain in the gallbladder, tiresome, slow breathing with great prostration. So that prostration's big, and then they having a hard time breathing. Like, oh man, it's just a chore to breathe. Oppression of the chest, spasm of the glottis. That's a 3. I guess that's that little thing that hangs down in the back. Acute bronchitis. Anybody having, sudden onset is what acute is of bronchitis. Aphonia. They lost their voice, cough, and the chest is sore from the cough with fluent coryza. Genitals are cold and relaxed in a male. Phosphoric acid you would consider along with gelsimium. Sex power exhausted. Spermatoria without erection. That's a 3, without erection. So they're always having sperm leaking out. And gonorrhea, good for gonorrhea. Putrid taste and breath. So the breath stinks and it tastes bad. Speech is thick like they are drunk. Saliva is yellow. There's yellow again. Thick yellow tongue. So that's why they're having a hard time talking, because their tongue is thick and it is yellow, has a yellow coating on it. Itching, tickling, soft palate, and nasopharynx. So there's a bunch of itching up in the nose. Coryza with dull headache and fever. Sneezing with fullness at root of nose. Diarrhea in nervous person after sudden emotions. Whether it's grief or bad news, anything like that. Anticipation, like a test coming up, of unusual ordeals, anything that comes up that messes someone up, whether it's news, it's a grief, a loss of something. Anticipation of, I got to take this test, I got to do this, and they'll get basically diarrhea from all that, and any kind of unusual ordeal. Stools are cream colored, that's a 3, or they're tea green. Skin is hot, dry, yellow, moist, itching on the skin. So there's a yellow, moist, itching type of thing going on. Measles, like eruptions. Measles is a 3. Could be a good measles remedy. Of course, you got to match the totality of symptoms. Catarrhal symptoms, mucus, that's 3. That's a 3. Aids in bringing out eruptions. So anybody has, they're sick, they got something with their liver or the gallbladder or this stuff going on here. And you give them medicine and it relieves that, and all of a sudden they'll have eruptions break out on the skin. All right, let's do sensation real quick. How much time? I wasted that time in the beginning. Dang nabbit. Sensations are always good. I usually use that to see what, to choose between medicine. Lightness of head or body. Sensation as if head were enlarged, as if there were a tape around the neck, as if the skin were contracted in the middle of the forehead. That's between the eyes. Sensation as if, that's weird. That's a 3rd medicine so far that I've heard something going on in the middle of that, between the eyebrows. Sensation as of a lump or in the esophagus, load on the stomach, as if stomach were quite gone, as if the uterus were squeezed by a hand. Sensation as if he would die, as if the blood ceased to circulate, as if the heart would stop unless he kept moving, as if a knife were thrust through the, did I wake you, dog, from occiput to forehead. Sensation as if eyes were jumping out of the head. Sensation of a lump were in the throat, which could not be swallowed. So that throat, that lump is a big thing there. And there's a few medicines with that lump. Drowsiness with influenza, that's a big one. You got someone that's got the flu, a COVID, a cold, or whatever, and they're just dopey and they're laying there. You opium, baptisia, and you would consider gelsimium. Emptiness, weakness, cramps, and they have a hiccup with all that. Let's see. Okay, temperature, influenza, that's a 3 with muscle soreness. So, like I said, that could be baptisia, that could be a few medicines. Prostration with headache, nervous chill up and down the back, that's a 3. Thirst is absent once held from shaking. So they're shaking a lot. It could be the chill, it could be the the chorea, the just a shaking going on. They want to be held. There's no thirst at that point. Post diphtheria paralysis. So someone has diphtheria, afterwards they're paralyzed. Gelsimium would bring that back. Feels like a lump and pain in the throat to the ear. That's a big one for this. And Hipersulf and Nux vomica also have that. Now vertigo, they have dizziness and blurred vision, double vision, loss of sight with giddiness. So dizziness, blurred vision, and they can have double vision and that going on. All right, let's see. I got some time. I thought this was going to take longer. Hopefully I'm doing this medicine justice because it is a polycrest of polycrest. There's a lot of good stuff this medicine's good for. You know what? I ain't sitting like that. The heck with it. Come on in, everybody. All right. Lord, I feel rough today, boy. I still did my little workout though. So the Gelsimium features of the headaches are accompanied by blurring of the sight and relieved by copious discharge of watery urine from a paretic condition or paralysis of the kidneys. So the kidneys have a paralysis going on, and as it said, the gallbladder or the liver's passive, and the gallbladder. So all these organs are having trouble with a person that needs Gelsimium. Conversely, there may be a desire to urinate during the night, and if the call is not immediately responded to, a violent headache arises. So they got to go to the bathroom, and the heck with it, they get a headache if they don't go. Alcoholic stimulants relieve all the complaints where Gelsimium is useful. That's weird. Hysterical dysphagia or aphonia, can't talk, after emotions. So they get these shocks, this grief, this whatever, and these emotions, they lose their voice. Measles and eruptive disorders, any kind of skin eruptions with drowsy state, suffused face, and even convulsions. Convulsions, and no less marked in Gelsimium than paralysis. So convulsions or paralysis, they'll have a lot of this different areas going on. Tremors is a keynote of the remedy. So there's, they have these tremors, these shakes. J.H. Nankerville drank 2 ounces. I don't know why he would do this. I can see taking the homeopathic medicine because that can be antidoted, but man, you drink this stuff, and boy, and like it said in the beginning, it says it's right up there with curare and nux vomica, and those are 2 basic poisons. So, anyways, where the heck is he? Oh, he drank 2 ounces of it instead of a glass of sherry. He walked a few feet with assistance, so he had to be helped to walk. And in another minute, his legs were paralyzed. He dragged himself to the bedside with his arms, but they were unable to help him to bed, into which he had to be lifted. So they had to lift him in bed. He's getting that paralysis. As long as he lay quiet, there was no trouble, but on the least exertion, there were excessive tremors. So he starts moving and he starts shaking. Vomiting occurred during the next 24 hours. Temperature rose to 101.5, sounds like a fever. Heart's action, very violent and intermittent. All the muscles of the eyes were affected, but of voluntary muscles, those of the right side suffered most. So it was all right-sided stuff with this medicine. All the muscles of the, okay, where was I? There was somnolence, which means they just want to sleep all the time, absence of mental excitement, and good appetite. The effects passed away in the order of occurrence, which is a very, that's the way it goes, your symptoms will come on, and when you give a homeopathic medicine, they'll go away in that same order. And it's always usually from the inside out, from the top to the bottom, and the most the organs that are most necessary to the least, which is the skin. And that's why it says gelsimium will push out things to the skin. The effects passed away. Okay. The arms had recovered. Vision was not perfect for 24 hours. A patient of Clark, a great homeopath, once took a dram of the tincture for a headache. On going out, he could not tell which side of the street he was on. He was near St. Paul's Cathedral and saw two cathedrals instead of one, so he's got double vision. Gelsimium in the potencies is a great neuralgic remedy, nerve pain, along with hypericum. That's a good one. The paralysis of the tongue recalls another condition, trembling of the tongue, paralysis or trembling of the tongue, which is one indication for gelsimium in typhoid fever, in which it is a leading remedy for that typhoid. The tongue is only thinly coated and has not the dark streak of the baptisia tongue. So the gelsimium tongue would be coated lightly with yellow, and the baptisia tongue would have a dark streak down the middle. That's how you would tell the difference between the two medicines, which one you would give. Let's see, the gelsimium face is flushed, crimson, so very flushed. Belladonna has that, but not quite as besotted as the baptisia. Besotted means they just look like they're suffering. So baptisia has more of a suffering look to them. Let's see. But the consciousness is not so clouded. There is a excessive weakness, trembling, but the consciousness is not so clouded. In Karaz, the hay fever of gelsimium has an important place. Early morning sneezing and streaming colds are strong indications. So whether it's a cold or hay fever or whatever, but that early morning sneezing and a lot of mucus. The characteristic headache of gelsimium begins in the occiput and spreads over the whole head, settling down over the eyes. So this headache will settle right down into the eyes. Dizziness and dim vision and dizziness rising up from occiput. So it's coming up, I don't know. The spreading over whole head with depression from heat of summer. Headache with stiff neck. Here we go. So that headache got a stiff neck. It's settling over the eyes. Worse in the morning. Better urinating. Preceded by blur before eyes. Drowsiness with headache. Difficulty in keeping eyes open. Dull headache over eyes to vertex and occiput with irregular action of the eye muscles. Neurotic symptoms in cigar makers. Impotence palpitations. Oh my goodness. Many symptoms occur in the connection with sexual organs, male and female, dysmenorrhea, epileptiform, convulsions during menstrual period, rigid OS in labor, so they're having a hard time having the baby, chill beginning in hands or feet and running up the back. That's a very big keynote for gelsimium. There's aggravation both before, during, and after menses. So all kinds of aggravation there. Itching of the skin and eruptions like measles going on. What do I got? 28. The stools of gelsimium, whether loose or constipated, are mostly yellow. Yellow plant, yellow stools, yellow tongue, yellow liver, and all that's getting messed up. Like the flower, the color comes out also in the color of the tongue and bilious symptoms generally. Wants to lie down and rest. That's a big one for it. They just don't want to move. Wants to be held, that he may not shake. Motion, worst most symptoms, so they start moving and every symptom gets worse. Better muscular pains, better heart. Better muscular pains, better heart. Rising from seat causes pain in heart. Shaking head, better heaviness of head. Lifting arms causes trembling of hands. Playing piano causes sensation of arm. Okay. J.G. Blackley pointed out the suitability of gelsimium to writer's cramp and professional paralysis. Clark relieved with it cases of dupuytren's gubature, which is, the hand, you can't straighten out your finger. That's my son's got that. Gelsimium. I gave him another one for it, but yeah, I didn't consider gelsimium. Great distress and apprehensive feeling, and I'm trying to say it, duputytren's contraction. Approach of a thunderstorm, so they're apprehensive about it. Heat of sun or summer makes it worse. Hot applications makes the pain in the back of the head better. Must be covered in all stages of paroxysms of all the coughing or whatever it is. Complaints from sudden change from hot or dry to damp air. So they don't like the damp weather. Catarrh occurring in warm, moist, relaxing weather. So a lot of mucus in the warm weather. Worse damp weather, so that's probably the rheumatism. Cold, damp atmosphere, better cold, open air. Worse from fog. Cold drinks are vomited immediately. Warm or spirituous drinks can be swallowed. Better from stimulants is a very general characteristic of Gelsimium. So you'd be considering also belladonna, which I say, belladonna has the flushed face, the dilated pupils in labor. I forget what that medicine is. Causticum in complaints of woman, cocculus, conium, curare in paralysis, ferrum phos in fever, phosphorus in effects of thunderstorm. When anytime thunderstorms bug somebody, you'd consider phosphorus along with gelsimium here. I don't know what that is. Veratium for a headache, borax for the sense of falling. That these are all symptoms under these different medicines. Bryonia and typhoid dreads movement. Gelsimium because he is so weak. So Bryony doesn't want to move because it just messes up whatever they got going on. Gelsimium just because they can't move because they're just so weak. Hypericum, worse from fog. That's interesting. Ignatia, which is a good depression remedy. Gastric disorders of cigar makers. Baptisia, ipecac, aconite, simisophusia, magphos, gelsimium. Contains some magphos. Okay. Culex and vertigo on blowing the nose with fullness of the ears. Boy, that's a lot. Antidotes to it. Anthropic, China, coffee, digitalis nux muratica, coffea again, let's see, digital alcoholic stimulants relieve all complaints where gelsimium is useful in cases of poisoning, artificial respiration, and fardization of respiratory muscles, breathing. Foy found nitroglycerin a perfect antidote in one case. Jeffson antidoted his case with strychnine, homeopathically, of course, and it antidotes magphos and it antagonizes entropic opium, comparable to baptisia in typhoid and influenza, ipecac in dumb ague, which is a flu-like a thing. That's what ague is. So yeah, so this is a major polycrest remedy, and you can see there's opium, baptisia, gelsimium you'd have to consider in a lot of these cases, nux vomica, so that's, like that lady's was clear. She's just laying there. Okay. Can't ask her any questions. You just got someone laying there from whatever it is. COVID, I wouldn't have to even know what it is. Go get gelsimium. Gave it to her the next day. She said she was better. The fever went away, I don't know, in a couple hours or something when she gave her the gelsimium. Next day, she was up and around and doing great. So take care of yourself because you can age, but you don't have to get old. Depends on how you eat, how you move, and your stress levels.